Hello, everybody. I'm Shanga, and welcome to this video called Lessons from Jackie and Shadow for the Spiritual Abolitionist. It's okay to leave your post. Tagline. And what does this have to do with building earth-centered, ancestor-centered, grief-centered, village-centered economies? Okay, let's get into it. So earlier today on my live multiverse memoir, aka Magical Reality TV for the Revolution, I was watching my favorite Eagle family reality TV show, aka Jackie and Shadow. So if you don't know, Jackie and Shadow are two Eagle parents who live in Big Bear Valley. And there's a community out there who set up a camera near the nest, and it's a non-invasive camera. And they stream it on YouTube live 24/7. So these eagles, Jackie and Shadow, have reached enormous fame over the years, while millions of people have gotten into this YouTube channel and year after year watch them live their lives, lay eggs, mate, hatch the eggs, raise them from little babies and eaglets to fledglings, and then send them off into the world. And so I found this YouTube channel last year, and I'll link it below. And along with millions, I fell in love with this eagle family, and as they raised two eaglets into fledgehood last year. And the community named those eaglets Sunny and Gizmo. And yeah, Jackie and Shadow have started another journey this year. Now, Jackie's the mama and Shadow is the papa. And Jackie laid two eggs last week, I believe. So I was watching the live feed this afternoon, and I saw Jackie sitting on the eggs and incubating them. And so I tuned in, and she was there, and she was all nestled with them. And then she got up and she flew away from the nest. Now, this is not abnormal. It happens a lot. So Jackie will take breaks from incubating, and often when that happens, Shadow will like fly in right away and sit on them to keep them warm, and they'll kind of rotate. Or one of them will leave for a few minutes sometimes, but then come back right away. But as I was watching this time, and she flew away, and 10 minutes go by, 20 minutes go by, 30 minutes go by, and Jackie doesn't come back, and neither does Shadow. And so those eggs are just sitting there. And so I found myself having a reaction, and I was a little antsy. I was like, when is she coming back? Um, and I remember last year being on this journey with tons of people, would be like in the chat in YouTube, on the YouTube channel, like getting super anxious and panicky, like, where is she? What's going to happen? Did something happen? The babies are in danger. I'm worried. And that's happening again today as I'm recording this, as people are getting really panicked as longer and longer periods are going by. Um, before she's coming back. And, often when this happens, people in the chat will also be like, relax, it's okay. Like, she knows what she's doing. Let nature take its course. Like, they are exceptional parents. Stop trying to control their process, or like be so worried that, they're neglecting, or they didn't miss, miss something or whatever. Like, let them do what they know how to do and how they want to move. Um, And so, I checked in with them earlier this afternoon, and then I kind of sat down to do some writing. And so I haven't checked back yet. I'll do that after I, finish recording this video. But in the meantime, I wanted to offer my perspective um, on some of the spiritual lessons from a liberation abolitionist ancestor healing journey about um, what this moment is sort of bringing up that we could look at, and why I'm talking about this today in the context of building earth centered economies. that move a spiritual liberation movement forward. And like, what does this have to do with any of that? So I want to talk about that in that video. And so for context, I am a longtime spiritual practitioner, and I've committed my life to, like I said, what I call an abolitionist ancestor healing journey. And I'd like to name this specifically and explicitly because there's a lot of spiritual practitioners out there and paradigms, right, that don't engage with the social or political healing as part of, our lineage healing work. And I want to make it clear that that is what I do and what I'm about. And my commitment to my own ancestor healing journey is to retrieve and bring forth the part of my ancestral memory and embodiment that weaves in solidarity with legacies and bodies of wisdom of Black feminism, of queer and trans movement work, with disability justice, with Indigenous leadership and Afro-Indigenous reparations, and land back promises, and really getting to the deeper truth of what those practices and ways of life mean and look like at a time like this, right? And ultimately, full scale, interspecies, intergalactic liberation, and cross cultural global solidarity. And that's my commitment. So that's what I mean when I say abolitionist ancestor healing journey. And on that, in that realm, in that context, one of the core gifts that I walk with is that I'm an animal communicator. So I walk with animal companion medicine that is specific to my Bengali ancestry. That's me, Bengali. So even when I watch a video on, of an eagle, right, on YouTube, especially with Jackie and Shadow, who I've gotten to know extensively over the last year, I understand their interaction with me as a viewer as a collaboration. So I'm listening in a very particular way as I'm watching this reality TV show. And I'm listening to what she's communicating with me by sharing her life with all of us on this channel. And side note, I do believe that she has consented to that. From an animal communicator perspective, her relationship to this camera that's on her nest and the millions of people watching, it does feel consensual to me. It feels peaceful. It feels like, you know, I feel like between Jackie and Shadow, Jackie's, I mean, definitely the boss. Most people understand that. But she's, I feel, the one who decided, yeah, I'm cool with this camera being here. And Shadow was like, yep. um, but yeah, I feel like Jackie knows that the camera is there and that it's feeding actually a purpose and a desire that she has within her to share her life with the world. And I'm hearing her say right now for a revolutionary purpose that has yet to be fully revealed because Shanga and Raven and their little friends too, Jackie says, have to reveal it. But we don't have to talk about that. Anyway, today, what Jackie helped me unearth and come closer home to today through this interaction is a thriving village principle that I want to bring forward, and that is it is okay to leave your post, even as millions of people around the world are freaking out right now about that. And so if we look at the spiritual journey in tandem with Jackie and her story, a mother's job to sit on her eggs and keep them warm. And this is, her primary job this season, right? This is her why. This is her purpose. It's her village role. It's the season she's in. This is the season for incubating eggs. This is her focus. This is her leadership. And this is where she's needed, right? And that's a core investigation that we return to on the spiritual journey again and again. What is your why, right? What is your job this season? What are you supposed to be focused on? What is your purpose right now? Or even the reason why you were alive in the first place. Now, what happens on the spiritual journey if you leave your post? We say that, right? Oh, that person has left their post. That means that they've gone off track, that you've spiraled in some weird direction, that you're not being yourself, that you're not engaging your spiritual responsibilities, your ancestral tasks, and that you quote unquote disappear from frame, right? Meaning your ancestors who gave you these incredible spiritual missions are like, what the hell? Where are you? Like, where did you veer off to? This here, right here, is what you're supposed to be doing. This is where your wealth is. This is where your reciprocity is. It's where your responsibilities lie. This is where you get to find who you are. It's where you're needed. So where the hell did you go? Okay, but the medicine that Jackie is communicating with us today through my translation as a communicator is that, yeah, she knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing in any moment that she leaves and comes back. Um, and that's when she leaves for shorter or longer periods of time. And what I know from working with the animals in a spiritual context is that the animals in general, like their perception extends into what we might call the otherworldly sight. The energetic realms, the unseen parts of life are very textured for them, right? There's a physicality that they experience with what is often imperceptible to us, even with those of us who have awakened to our spiritual gifts. The animals are, for the most part, much more aware of the unseen world than we are. And that is, encompassed in their perception of life and thus like the daily choices that they make. And that's a long way of saying that Jackie does understand energetically what is going on with her home at all times. When she flies off, she can still perceive and listen and feel physically, even like what's going on with her nest and the entire ecosystem that makes up her habitat. So today she flies off, right? And I'm having a reaction like everyone else. I'm like, "Oh my God, those eggs, are they okay? Are there ravens around?" Because those motherfucker ravens. Those ravens, they're always looking for a chance to pounce and wreak havoc on this eagle nest. And I'm always like, safety, safety, right? Like all of us. But see, Jackie, even when she flies away, she's very much aware and feels the energy of her nest. So she's not unaware of what's happening if she's gone, right? She knows and can feel when that energy is peaceful, when it's safe, and if there is something, a raven that's about to attack, she would likely feel that energetically, that something was off before they even get close, right? And then in a lot of moments, she would fly back or call Shadow, to go check on the eggs. Now, is she perfect? No. Is she omniscient? No. Um, and many of us who've been watching this journey know that a couple years ago, in 2023, her eggs unfortunately did get eaten by ravens. And it was really sad. But there's something here because even sometimes amongst the most dedicated of caregivers, you miss something. And 2023 was especially intense because the entire global collective energy changed that year, drastically so, in a way that was also inevitable. So everything shifted and everything had to recalibrate. Millions of people, including myself, had very extraordinary personal experiences in 2023 where we thought it was something and then realized it was something else, right? And so that kind of thing where you thought it was under control and then something out of left field attacked before you saw it coming. We were going on like normal and then suddenly disaster struck and we have to shift in order to recalibrate with the energy of that time. And we certainly saw that, right, on the global level in 2023 with, these blow up escalations of military assaults on specific ley lines on the planet, including Palestine in October and Sudan in April. But right now, today, many of us on this journey have really found a new groove in this new kind of energetic architecture. And we're really getting good into that groove, into this new reality. And so today, Jackie, like she has done so many times, reminds us that she's got this. And when I feel into the energy of those eggs unattended today, I don't feel like an attack out of left field energy. I feel a safety and a presence and a deep intentionality. And I feel her listening and following her guidance as she always does. I feel her confidence and her trust in herself. And then we bring this back to the spiritual lesson. It's okay to leave your post. Why? Because sitting at your post, which is your mission, your purpose, your reason, that is only one part of your purpose, your mission, and your reason. The full picture is that you're a human and you get to be alive, or you're a bird. But the point is that you get to live. And even the most dedicated and sturdy on the spiritual journey, it's not just about the work. It's not just about the mission. You also get to be free and live your life. You get to come and go. And that is the work. That is the mission. It is what we're fighting for. The right to live wholeheartedly on all sides of an altar, including the parts where we're dancing around somewhere off frame. Jackie, as a mama bird, is exercising her full and complete right. She's exercising her right to be a full and complete being, even as motherhood is her full and complete responsibility. And so what we're being held accountable to here on a collective level is healing the degradation, centuries, generations, eras long degradation of the mother line on the planet. That if you're a mother of any sort, you don't exist to do anything other than pump out babies and raise them and do the caregiving work and hold things down and always be there, right? When the reality is those eggs, even in their week-old incubation phase, maybe have something important to learn and experience in her absence. And that is part of the caregiving work. That's part of the personal stewardship and leadership work, is to allow life to sometimes take care of what it is you're responsible for. And to trust in the entire energetic ecosystem of care and home and life and giving and receiving that you have created with your labor, co-created. Like let the ecosystem as a whole sometimes take the lead and take care of what is yours to nurture. And trust in the home that you've built with your hands and your heart. That it too, in its energetic configuration, is nurturing what is your responsibility as you come and go. And so this is reminding us of where our wounds are and where our complicity is in constantly recreating like what we say we're against. That we don't ever allow our caregivers to take a break, and where we hold certain leaders to dehumanizing standards of perfection, that you're not ever allowed to be anything other than a superhuman on duty, and how we do that to ourselves in our approach to spiritual healing. Like you always have to be aligned, right? That's the mission, is always staying aligned, on brand, and you're never allowed to stray. When Jackie reminds us that straying, falling off the wagon, even misalignment, that is part of the work. Because this mission of healing this larger planetary wide mother wound, that is the mission. Okay, right? By sometimes not being on it, not being on the eggs, we hold each other and ourselves accountable to that larger mission. We heal this wound through reclaiming not just our right, but our will to live wholeheartedly and imperfectly. That is our perfection. And it's not just our perfection, it's our glory. It's our right to fly, to soar, to travel. That even when we're in a season where it is our duty and our most intentional prized workload to sit at the altar or at the bedside. As a global collective, we have become incredibly imbalanced. When there are certain communities, identities, or parts of our movement that are always flying, always soaring, always traveling, always get to be free. And some of us are always sitting, always caring, always being responsible, always being the one who doesn't leave, doesn't stray. And that is reflected in what I said at the beginning about spiritual communities, right? When you have spiritual communities that don't see social and political healing as lineage work, right? As the spiritual work, we get spiritual communities and paradigms that just grow and grow and grow and grow on a foundation of white supremacy. You're always getting to the next level. You're always getting another initiation. You're always doing another ceremony. You're always, getting another download. You're never just coming back to sit down here in this massive uncomfortability and decades long, what would be a decades long investment in removing that white supremacy from the foundation. And for those of us who do that work, we always have to be in bearing the consequences of that imbalance, which makes our lives and our livelihood so much less free. I just have an inside joke in my head right now, sorry. I was debating whether or not to say it, but I'm not going to next time. Anyway, there's a patriarchal element of this too, right? The way that Black women, Indigenous women, women of color, queer and trans Black women, femmes in general, healers and artists, disabled people, we lose so much of our freedom to move, right? While holding too much of the workload that actually needs to be shared. So, what does this have to do with learning how to co-create village-centered economies that are also grief and ancestor and earth-centered? So you want to think about dominant spiritual business models that ultimately require us to keep hustling, keep selling, keep building your audience. Because in the design of those models, we've written a vow of poverty. Yes, even as some spiritual businesses accumulate masses of money, you get that 6, 7, 8 figure biz, there's still a vow of poverty written into the foundation of the design. There is, because to undo that, we would have to do it collectively in a way that we have not done it yet. And that vow of poverty says, the only way that anyone will ever pay me directly for my services and my offerings and my gifts and my magic, but never for my labor. You'll pay me if I never leave these eggs, if I'm always pumping out another birthing, another offering, another launch. But Jackie here reminds us that we've built cultures where we only ever directly reciprocate the labor of sitting and not the full life and creative process behind what makes the sitting possible. And she reminds us today, I'm more than just my deliverables. I'm more than what I sell. I'm more than what I do. And why would we continue to build cultures that don't directly fund more of who we are, even if it exists out of frame? Because in the coming decades, and right now, that is what is required of us to show up for the planet. And that is the crux of the spiritual healing journey, is it not? The desire to become more of ourselves. So if you've been following along, you know that I've been incubating my vision for a village artist grant ecosystem. And that is my personal offering toward co-creating village-centered economies. And so this ecosystem and the design, really the whole impetus behind it functions on the underpinning truth and reality that we can collectively organize to move money for whatever we want. no matter how audacious, if a village is willing. And so what I've done is design a collective financial organizing system dedicated to directly funding the parts of life and labor that we take for granted will always just get done, but never get direct recognition. Because why would I pay you for the times that you go off screen or off frame, out of alignment even? What do I get out of that? Because the times that you go off and leave your post is what makes you you. And same here. That's the life, that's the learning, that's the grieving, that's the labor that makes all that we have to give when we're sitting here at the altar possible. And if we value that as a principle, why wouldn't we pay money for it? And if that's actually how many of us want to live, why not just make that happen for each other? So there is a fundamental, inherent, and beloved labor involved in leaving. When Jackie leaves, she is activating her labor, the labor of trust, the labor of grief, the labor of worry and concern and checking your internal evaluation system 3 times over, the labor of constant listening and feeling and communicating with that unseen world and still protecting her home, her purpose, her reason, her why through all of it, the labor of going back and forth, leaving and coming, leaving and coming. So everything, including this video today that I'm sharing on my platform in 2026, is part of an artist residency that I'm hosting with my storytelling school, Otherworldly Giants. And this artist residency is called A Friendship That Can Withstand the Revolution. And so the point of this residency is to unearth ongoing thriving village principles from our ongoing planetary and cosmic listening, to eventually put all those learnings at the end of the residency on a collective map. And when we put that concoction together in its sacred geometry, we'll have a map that illuminates our core ancestral guidance, thriving village memories, abolitionist relationship values, clarity, direction as to how to move through this very specific and complex terrain that we're in right now in 2026 and beyond. So on that note, I want to, do a little takeaway with Jackie here, and the little bit of, conversation that we had today while I was watching her on TV. And that is the village principle that she offers us today, I would say, is that the act of leaving is a central, non-negotiable aspect of what it takes to appreciate your own labor. You might want to write that down and meditate on that, because that is a word. The act of leaving is a central, non-negotiable aspect of what it takes to appreciate your own labor. Leaving our post requires us to appreciate the labor of that post. Because when you leave, when you go off the rails, you are required to appreciate your full humanity, or bird-anity, behind the labor. And then you hold your village accountable to appreciating your labor as well. Even if they have weird reactions to your accountability, you're still holding them accountable to appreciate your labor, even when they hate it. You remind them that there's a full life here, and you don't get to see it all the time. But if we don't require that from our communities, then we're not getting it. We're not getting the full picture. we're not protecting the full picture, and we're not moving forward the full picture. We're just getting, protecting, and moving parts of it. And at times like these, prioritizing the pieces and not the full body, I would say with my Sagittarius moon, is not good enough. So that's the offering for today. If you want to learn more about the artist residency, it's open and ongoing through 2026, and there are several layers of circles in which you can participate and choose how you want to engage with the work that I'm doing here. And so I just opened my calendar for one-on-one animal communication readings. Is it? Yeah, the first time. The first time that I'm doing these particular I've been on a long journey with the animal communication stuff, and for a long time I didn't actually offer actual one-on-one readings to folks. But now I am. And so these services are part of this unearthing process that we're doing. So every session that we do is going to be pulling out more and more of these thriving village principles. And the people that, I work with directly will also be feeding, it'll be coming through your relationship with your animal. And so there's all the details about what those services look like and what a reading is like with me in the link in the link in the description. So if you want a personal animal communication reading, you can check out the information on that. But the most important thing about this residency for me at this moment is that I do need to bring together my dream team, an advisory council of co-producers. So that's what I'm looking for. And this circle is going to act in capacity of spiritual advisors, core financial investors, and become executive stakeholders of this village artist grant ecosystem that I've been incubating. And so part of this artist residency that we're running this year is going to include a hands-on research practicum with this system of this collective financial organizing system that I've designed. And so we're going to find out in real time how our experience in life and grief and in our holistic body, how does it change when you put money, when we practice as a small cohort to put money and funding directly on the otherwise unacknowledged and unfunded labor that makes everything else possible. And so for this phase of the project, we're looking at putting money directly on an end-of-life journey, the end-of-life season, as a grief-centered economy in the heart of a village-centered economy. Because that's my primary interest, is grief-centered economies. And that's what I visioned here. So yeah, and that's actually also what Jackie is talking about today. The leaving, right? As part of your grieving journey. That when we fly away from our post to spiral deeper into grief, only to come back again at a time of our choosing, more full-hearted, more alive, and more full of ourselves. And what can change in the big picture when a small team of us come together to practice actively putting funding, reciprocity, celebration, and recognition on this phase of life as the center of what moves a liberation wisdom keeper movement forward. So yeah, you can check out the link in my description, explore my animal communication services. And also, if you do feel like you are a good match for the executive producer and stakeholder role, you'll find more information about that as well. And I will be putting the full application portal for that circle out soon. But for now, if you're interested in that role, I would love it if you could drop me a note and introduce yourself. I will share more with you about the application portal at that time as well. So yeah. Okay, so I after I wrote all my notes for this video and I was about to press record, I went and checked back with Jackie before I press record, and still it's been like a few hours now, and the eggs have been left unattended, and it does feel unusual. And of course, she does have a reason for everything, and there's a deep intentionality there. So there may be something else going on. It's not just I don't know if it's just she's going to come back soon kind of thing. Leaving them might have been an intentional decision. So we're gonna stay tuned and find out. And maybe I'll kind of see what happens, and I'll share another update about my perspective on that. Or I'll be back with something else. Until next time, peace.